candidates from the Commissioners District 2, Stacy Pullman and Vaughn Ponce. Before we get started, we would like for the president of the Sand Hill Neighborhood Association to come and greet us.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. We, the Sand Hill Neighborhood Association, would like to welcome you with this very happy occasion today. You're joining us for a very worthwhile purpose. The worthwhile purpose is to know the candidates for the mayor of this great city of Augusta, to ask questions of them, and they too will give you answers. Another thing, they will be representing you, the winner will represent you in the city of Augusta. We would like for you to vote for your convictions. Whoever pleases you is up to you. Garnett Johnson, one of the mayor candidates. Stephen Kendricks, another mayor candidate. These two young, inspiring young black men is of a generation of history among us. So we say, vote your convictions. Vote for the ones that represent you. This evening, we gather here at the Greater Mount Canaan Missionary Baptist Church, where we are today. And we would like to thank them for letting us use the facilities. This other black man, the moderator today, he's a young black man. He's an inspiring young man to the Sand Hill Neighborhood Association. He represents what we all represent. We represent being a well-being and cooperative among us. And that is what we do to encourage one another as we go along the way. Here he is today. And then let me not forget, the candidates also, we welcome you. The candidates commissioner that represent the District 2 runoff. Vote your conviction there again. Vote who represent you. Vote who expect to win for you. That is what it is all about to do, to make this world a better place. And let us do it. Now, we give thanks to know that the one that is presenting, I present to you as the moderator for the evening is, and we give thanks to the Greater Mount Canaan and their members for this, using the facilities. And we would like to say thanks to Reverend Dr. Victor Thomas, who now comes to you as the moderator for the evening. Thank you.
We want to welcome all of you here. We want to welcome all of you here. Hopefully you all in the far back can hear. I am Victor R. Thomas, pastor here at the Greater Mount Canaan Baptist Church, and we want to congratulate both of these candidates. We hope and pray that God will continue to bless both of them in whatever walk of life they strive in. Before we pray, and ask, thanks God's blessing on this occasion, we're going to ask both candidates to shake hands. Amen. Hey, y'all, it's official now. Let us pray. Our God, our Father, we thank you for this opportunity. We're going to ask each candidate, give each one of them 3 to 5 minutes to introduce themselves, starting with Garnett Johnson.
Well, thank you so much, Reverend Thomas, to the Greater Mount Canaan Baptist Church and to the Sand Hills Neighborhood Association. Thank you guys for braving this heat to be out here to hear some folks talk about their different visions for the city of Augusta. My name is Garnett Johnson, and my background is in business, in that for the past 12 years, I operated a business. I've created jobs. I've created opportunities for others, and I can't be more passionate and more excited to offer myself up to become the next mayor for the city of Augusta. I was born and raised in this city, raised practically by a single mother, even though I had a father in my life. For the first 15 years, he was never home. I was raised in one of the most challenging environments where there was high crime, high poverty, not a lot of educational expectations, and somehow with a praying mother, I was able to overcome that. So my passions are telling others how we could do that. Augusta deserves someone who stands in their best interest, that has a conversation of who stands on the side of the taxpayers for Augusta, Richmond County. My campaign platform till this day still stands on 3 simple terms: growth, action, and results. Growth in that we need to get Augusta winning again. You know, I can't tell you enough. Augusta used to be known as Georgia's second largest city, and that's not our designation anymore. We're third. And Savannah is knocking on the door to take over as third. So we got to get our economy growing again. We got to get our confidence growing again, and that young people, when they graduate high school or college, they can feel strongly that they can come back here and create a good living and earn a great job. Action in that, we need somebody that knows how to get things done. I've always told everybody, I'm not a talker, I'm a doer. I've grown a small business. I've invested in blighted communities. I've helped others. So I'm a person of action. 2, we need someone who's actionable and accountable to the taxpayer. I know many of you yesterday and over the last week have called me and said, you know, I'm a little concerned with the tax assessment notices that I've gotten, and I'm disappointed with what I get for the amount of money they've asking me when they're asking me to pay more. And then lastly, I'm a results-oriented person. Being a lifelong sales guy, I've never been judged on what I say. I've been judged on what I do. And I've performed as a salesperson. I've always overachieved. I've always gotten things done. I've always been a high attainer. And as your mayor, I would expect no less than you to hold me accountable to the same standards. So here I am. I'm asking you to consider me. Last time we were at this location, I told you that there were 9 candidates in this race. And I asked you to research every single one of them before you determine to vote for me. But now there's only 2 of us. And I'm asking you to do the same thing. You look at our backgrounds, you look at our track records. You look at what we've done instead of what we said. And I would ask you to let me earn your vote. And I promise you, as your mayor, I will continue doing that. My name is Garnett Johnson. I'm from East Augusta. And I'm for Augusta. Thank you so much again.
Steve, at this time, we're going to ask Stephen Kendricks to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here today. And I, along with Mr. Johnson, am very thankful that you're out here braving this heat this evening. My name is Stephen Kendrick. I'm a candidate for the 85th mayor of Augusta, Georgia. And I'm so very pleased to be here to explain to you why I think this is the most important race we're going to have in Augusta in the next decade. Augusta's in a very unique place in its history right now. Augusta has a myriad of issues that need to be solved. And you have a hiring decision that you have to make today that is very similar to hiring decisions you make all the time. Each and every one of you go through a process when you're looking to hire someone for a job. Sometimes it's to hire someone to take care of an elderly parent or a painter in your home. But in each one of those, you always look at qualifications and experience to decide who's best for that job. Augusta's problems today are unique in that we need someone who understands how to make government work for you. This equation is not very difficult. You want services provided to you in an economical way that allow you to know that you got a value for your dollar. I offer to you that I've demonstrated that to you for the last 13 years. You sent me to the tax commissioner's office 13 years ago, to an office that had poor facilities. It did not produce the best customer service. Certainly didn't all the time have the best attitude when you went there. We took that very office at that time, and we've changed that and delivered the top agency that is in this city. We didn't stop there. We continued to set a standard so that we help others in government improve their customer service and deliver the types of service that you deserve. How does Augusta fix its problems? This garbage went from 2 days a week to 1. People have problems with the rates on utilities. The grass needs cutting in the right-of-ways all the time. How do you fix those without having someone who understands and has done that for you before? I offer to you, you're making a hiring decision that you need to be very careful about making sure the qualifications meet the job at hand. This job is important for the city of Augusta. Our future is at stake. This isn't about the next 4 years. This is about the next 40. The decisions you make will determine the economic development projects that should continue to come in this place and how we thrive as a city. So as you make your decision, as my opponent just said, check our track records, check our community service, check what we've done, and I'm sure you'll come up with the right decision. Stephen Kendrick for mayor. Thank you.
We will have a question first to Mr. Garnett. You'll have 3 minutes to answer the question. And Kendrick, you'll have 1 minute to rebuttal. Then you will be asked the same question. You'll have 3 minutes. And Garnett, you'll have 1 minute to rebuttal. The first question is, during our previous forum, candidates were asked what they would do as mayor. Today, our questions will be centered around how will you accomplish the services that you claim that you will carry out. Question number 1 to you, Garnett Johnson. Tell us, what do you know about the Sand Hills community and District 1?
Well, that's a great question. I know a lot about District 1, and that's where I was born and raised. I know Sand Hills well, and that is one of the most historic African-American districts that we have in this entire city. And I told you at the last forum, you guys are blessed with having influence and affluence and geography to one of the top venues in our entire city with the Augusta National Golf Course and the Masters Tournament. So you're probably wondering, how am I going to make a difference in this community? It's going to start in day one by having a conversation about who stands on your side as a taxpayer. Now, it's interesting in that your biggest challenge in Sand Hills is going to be to hold on to your property. I don't know if any of you know that, but that's going to be your biggest challenge. Because as blight continues to happen, you got people, as I told you, that are influential and affluent that are willing and able to take over these properties. So your biggest challenge is going to be, how do we keep these properties within our community? It's 2 ways on how you get it done. One way is historic tax credits. You know, there's a neighboring state that has a historic tax credit that's beneficial to taxpayers in historic districts. I think that can easily be applied to the citizens in Sand Hills through tax abatement. 2 is through HUD programs. As you know, there are a lot of programs that create opportunities for first-time home buyers, for properties that are being blighted. So as your mayor, I want to make sure that we continue that funding, we continue having that conversation, that we continue to create the opportunities for a tax abatement so you can keep these properties within your families. Now the struggles. Property values are going up. As you know, the G word is close by this community. And it's apparent as you ride through this neighborhood and you see the encroachment on how others are moving into your community. So I think it's important that you have a leader to identify that, to help the ones who want to continue to live in this community, to live here affordably. Two, you need someone that stands on the side to make sure that you get the state level decision makers as well as the federal level decision makers to make sure that we put those programs in place, to make sure that we offer the tax abatement, to make sure that we're providing hub programs to keep these houses affordable so you can maintain and want to stay in this neighborhood. And that's how I plan to do it. Thank you for that question.
The question, those were great answers. The question is, I want to put the emphasis on, tell us what you know about Sand Hill community and District 1. Steve, you go over the rest.
So, thank you. So the Sand Hills community is a historic community. It's anchored by 4 churches. It is a community that is bordered by great wealth and great poverty at the same time. That disparity is a huge issue for this community. When you talk about a community that sits in this pocket where the most expensive house in Augusta, Georgia sits 4 streets away from here, and yet abject poverty and blight is down the street, you understand a government intervention is required. I believe that government's role in making sure Sand Hills becomes the thriving neighborhood it used to be is important. This is where many of the Black community lived, and they worked in the homes for people on the hill. This is where they lived each and every day as they sent their kids to school. They'd go and clean houses there, and sometimes, if they're fortunate enough, to work in some of the plants in the other part of town. That kept our community thriving for a while, but over time, a transition happened. And in that transition, there's decay and there's blight, and we are responsible as a government for fixing that. That wealth disparity comes from a neglect from government. I aspire to make sure that in this center pocket, that we can once again do the things that government should do. Fix the roads that are here. Make sure the drainage is appropriate. Use the ordinances that are already on the books to make sure that grass gets cut and windows get boarded up. There's nothing new that needs to be created. The only thing new that needs to happen is an attitude. Nobody cares about poor neighborhoods. And the fact of the matter is, it is our responsibility to take a neighborhood with this much classic opportunity and do something better for it. I grew up neighboring Sand Hills, and then I grew up in the Sand Hills neighborhood, but clearly understand that it is a historic jewel in our community, and it needs much more work. And I am committed to doing this along with other districts, other neighborhoods in District 1, which were mentioned as well. The other end of the district, East Augusta, is in the same disrepair. We have the very same issues. Funny how that works. The poor on the end, down in what we call the bottom, and right up here on the hill outside of the wealth is here again. Somebody's got to pay attention to those things, and I'm committed to doing that. Thank you.
Question number 2. Steve, you will go first. Sand Hill is representative of several historical urban areas in the city of Augusta that is facing disrepair and blight. What and how will you make improvements to Sand Hills community? Who will you involve to get this accomplished?
So I think the equation for this is very simple, and it's something that, frankly, we've already started to do. Government's role in your life, as I mentioned before, is very important. And I think sometimes people make light of what government's role is as they try to take government out of our lives. Government was created to deliver services for people and provide opportunities for them in their lives. Our Housing and Community Development Department was brought in to this church to discuss what we could do to revitalize and make over this Sand Hills community. I was a part of that decision in that I was the one who actually went to the Housing and Community Development Department and said, we need to dust off that 2003 study in which they looked at Sand Hills and said, we're going to do this. See, the city always gets criticized for doing studies and never using them. And I can't say that criticism isn't right. But what I can tell you, when you have the historic knowledge and you know that one was sitting on the shelf, you can sometimes dust that off and get it fixed up. So I went to Hawthorne Welcher and I said, let's wake that up. Let's bring it back out. And so a series of meetings were had, and we brought the community in. And the community looked and had a charrette and looked at the pictures and looked at the drawings and decided what they wanted in their community. That's what you want from your government, is an interest in what you want in this community. Most of us here today, we don't live in this community. I see a few people who do. But what really matters is the people who are living over there on Northview Avenue and on Mount Auburn and on Hazel. Those are the people that matter in this community, and what they want is for government to make sure that their streets, roads, lights, infrastructure work just like everybody else's. The blight problem with investors coming in is an important issue. They're buying things, and they're going to probably make some improvements. But government has to be mindful of how to set some standards and set some limits so we don't move out the natives of this community so that they can stay here and continue to live and bring up their grandkids and kids. And we can repair this community and place it back to where it wants to be. So I believe you fix these historic areas by using government and the private investor.
Close it up.
To make sure it's good. I went over 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Ooh, I'm sorry. I can count, but I can't tell time. I'm sorry.
All right. Mr. Johnson, you can rebuttal or you can answer that question, whichever one you want.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna answer the question in that I got ahead of myself and I answered how I could get it done. And as I mentioned, it's through historic tax credits to get it done. And let me just go back. I think the government does play a role, but also have to have a role with private investment. One thing I've done down in District 1 where I grew up, no one asked me to do it. I got tired of the neighbors saying, we're tired of these blighted properties, these neglected properties. So from a private investment, I went and bought some of them, just cleared them. I don't have any plans with them, but I think it's the right thing to do for the neighborhood. We need to create opportunities and show others that are from this community on how we do it. I think it starts by coming from the community first. Government should not always be the answer. Government needs some help with private investment. People that are passionate, that are from the community, that has the ability to do it, to reach back, to create opportunities for others to want to live here affordably. Thank you.
1 minute.
So I'd like to add to that, though. Government's role is to protect the people there from the investors sometimes. See, it's the investors that come in and they buy the properties and they put the big house on them and they make it to the people who were living there before can't live. So what I want to do is make sure government, in their role, protects the people who live here. There has to be a balance there, and I'm for that.
You're looking at me mighty hard, Garnett. I'll give you 30 seconds.
30 seconds in that. I think there is a balance, but from the private investment perspective, we can create affordable housing that maintains the neighborhood and maintains the balance. Thank you.
Question 3. We'll go to you first, Garnett. Everyone talks about economic development. How will you make economic improvement in the city of Augusta? What improvements will you make? Who will you involve to get the improvements accomplished?
That is a great question. And as I told you earlier, I serve on the board that has Georgia named as the #1 state for business for 8 continuous years. Just in the first 3 quarters, we've had a record number of investments, almost $14 billion in economic investments, creating almost 35,000 jobs. And the single largest investment in our state's history was just named down in Bryan County, right outside of Savannah. I serve on that board. So when you think about a leader, I always tell people, you need someone who's in the room in order to be in the deal. But you still ain't in the deal till you're at the table. As your mayor, I get to continue to serve on that board at the table with the people who decide. I know about every single economic involvement that's coming to our state. I know every single film that's even being thought of that's being produced in our state. As your mayor, I'm gonna be Augusta's biggest cheerleader. Now, what I've done from a private perspective, I've created jobs in this city without the help of government. I've invested in blighted properties down at the corner of 11th and Telfair Street when everybody said it was a den of homelessness and a bunch of blight. We made improvements and we watch others follow us. Go down and look how we have market rate apartments that are coming, that are there. So I have the experience to move this city forward from an economic development standpoint. Not only am I sitting at the table, but I have done it. Thank
you. You can 1 minute to rebuttal, or you want to go to the next question? That's on you.
I hadn't had a chance to answer that question.
Well, go ahead on then.
Okay, I was just making sure. I'm more interested in economic development in Augusta, Georgia. I can appreciate what the governor did with the plan out there in Rivian and all of those, but I want to talk about what gives you jobs here. See, when we talked earlier about the other places growing, the reasons they're growing because everybody's trying to get them jobs over there. I'm trying to get jobs here so we can grow. And so when we talk about economic development and being at the table, the right table is the one that matters. And the table in Augusta, Georgia says, we've got to bring the jobs here. If you're connected, get them here so we can make an advantage and we can take advantage of it. So let me tell you what I've done. When Augusta needed a new plant to bring 300 jobs and $300 million of an investment, I'm the one who went to Germany with the folks from the State Economic Development Department and brought Arubis back to Augusta, Georgia and cut the ribbon. When the state needed another plant in Augusta, when Augusta needed another plant at the corporate park for 150 jobs, I'm the one who went to Ohio and brought back Pure Cycle and cut the ribbon for Augusta, Georgia. Economic development surely is a state sport, but it surely means more in home. That's like saying when my neighbor has a great day at the office, it's good for me in my office too. No, ma'am, we need to fix what's going on here. We've got to bring the jobs here. We need to make sure that we're paying attention to what goes on right here. And I'm at every table as the chairman of the Economic Development Authority here in Augusta, Georgia. We are the lead agency as it relates to bringing jobs to Augusta, Georgia. We've done it under my leadership for the last 3 years, and we've done it well. Our economic development president of our organization was voted one of the top 50 economic development officials in the entire country. We're going to continue to do it. We're going to continue to do it for Augusta, Georgia. I can appreciate what's going on for Georgia because it should be, but I'm more interested in what's going to go on in our own backyard.
You have 1 minute to rebuttal.
1 minute. Well, as I mentioned, Georgia is the #1 state for business. In order to get things done, you need to be a consensus builder. You can't look at who's a Democrat, who's a Republican, who's black, who's white. You need someone that stands on both sides. And when you look at the state of Georgia, like it or hate it, there's 2 sides of this equation. I'm the candidate that stands on both sides. I have relationships on both sides. We can't be Democrats, we can't be Republicans, we can't be black, we can't be white. That's who we need to be. That's who have always been a consensus builder. We got to start repairing our relationships with our neighboring counties. In order to have economic development, you can't do it alone. And that's what I stand on. Thank you.
Question 4 will go to Garnett. Well, Steve, go to you first. The largest percentage of residents in Augusta live in South Richmond County. What improvement will you make in that area? And how will you get them accomplished? Who and what organizations you will involve in that process?
So making sure South Augusta becomes the community we want it to become has two things that are most important. One, we've got to make sure people come to our city, buy single-family new homes, live in neighborhoods, and have economic development outside of them, businesses there. I started yesterday by announcing a project that is coming to South Augusta that's going to transform the Deansbridge Road Gordon Highway corridor. Everybody's been skeptical. It's funny how people want to steal your joy when something's going good for you. It happens sometimes. But what I can tell you is South Augusta's thriving new areas, South Augusta's thriving future begins with bringing new jobs, new businesses, and people to that area. It's always talked about, there's plenty of people there, but we can't have a sit-down restaurant. We can't have somewhere to buy a tire shop. We have to go all the way across town. Funny how we've started to change that. Locally, we're working on projects right now that's going to put a steakhouse on Deansbridge Road. That's going to put a new restaurant on the Windsor Spring Road area. We're doing those things right now for South Augusta, and it's because we understand the local economic development market. It requires people who understand how to make this work. It's not just knowing who's there, it's understanding how to make the levers work. It's like asking when you go to the hospital and you have a heart problem, you don't want a cardiologist, just give me any old surgeon. You don't need any surgeon. You need somebody who understands the economic development issues that are going on in that area. And South Augusta's problems come with poor infrastructure, not enough. Our sewer in some places in South Augusta doesn't go to all the homes. Bus routes don't go far out past Boykin Road. We don't have restaurants that are there open past 10 o'clock. That only happens when you have economic development officials and government officials who have been there, done the work, understand, and will continue to provide those opportunities for that part of the community. So I stand here before you saying, I am the candidate that if you want that right type of economic development, if you want more announcements that are actually going to go into the planning department and be approved like we did yesterday, then you're going to elect someone who's done that before. That's me. Thank you.
Do I need to repeat the question or you?
I think this is an easy question for me in that before I even announced my candidacy, I realized that South Augusta needed some help. I'm just going to be honest with you. On day one, the very first decision I made was to put a campaign headquarters at one of the busiest corridors in the South Augusta at the corner of Windsor Spring and the back road. Nobody asked me to come. Nobody suggested that I visit. I realized the people out there need help. And let me just tell you, for those of you that live out there, if you have continued to elect the same people to give you the same nothing, that's a shame. When it rains on Windsor Spring Road, you can't sometimes even tell what lane you're in. There's no markings in the road. People are complaining about infrastructure issues, not to mention not having a decent place to sit down and eat, not to mention having to drive to West Augusta to shop. So yes, I went to South Augusta with a campaign headquarters, and here's my pledge as mayor. We're going to stay in South Augusta. We're going to create those sit-down restaurants from going to close up and shutter. We're going to create something that benefits the citizens of South Augusta because I know how to do it and I've done it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Question 5. Question 5. We'll go to Johnson first. Augusta is a great place to live, primarily because its temperature. Periodically, though, Augusta experiences strong downpours of rain as well as storms. The resulting into rainfalls which cause floods all around the city, along Green Street, as well as other areas in the city. How will you resolve this issue, and with whom will you work to get it accomplished?
That's a great question, and I grew up in District 1. It's flooded down there when I lived there my entire life, and it's still flooding today. Now, the fix to this problem was what they call the stormwater tax. They said if you pay this special tax, we're going to fix some of these flooding issues. But I ain't seen a whole lot of fixing down in District 1. All we get is some grass cut about 2 or 3 times a year, and I don't see a whole lot of fixing. So, as I mentioned early in this campaign, the citizens of Augusta we really deserve an efficiency and an operational review of every single department in our county. We need to know what the dollars are. Now, if we're collecting all these taxes, where are they going? If it's stormwater, it should be tackling stormwater. You know, these projects are happening few and far in between, and people are dissatisfied with the results that we're getting. So how will I get it done? Efficiency, operational review, with the help of the commission on day 1 when I take office. Thank you.
I like he said day 1. Isn't that cute? Difference day 1. That's cute. Thank you. The flooding in East Augusta, the flooding that happens in Sand Hills, happens because of the inattention of government officials. It's not that they're not collecting enough money. It's about priorities. And if your neighborhood isn't important enough, and I said it a little earlier, people don't care about what happens to poor people. People don't care about if you're the type that can't necessarily pick up the phone and call somebody important because you've got flooding outside your home. It comes with prioritizing what's happening in those communities as an elected official. When you know and understand that the least amongst us need help, you got to be a cold-hearted person not to want to make that right. Engineering department is the department that you have to go to in order to get those things done. Our engineering department controls the SPLOST dollars for fixing infrastructure. But guess what? It takes politicians to influence those engineering departments and say, hey, I don't want you going over to that area to fix that so fast. I want you back downtown fixing what's going on in that neighborhood. That hasn't happened. My pledge is to make sure that those neighborhoods get first on the list all of a sudden, because they've never been first on the list before. If you live in it's a reason why it's called the hill, because the water runs down, and the water runs down right to what? The bottom. Somehow we've got to figure out how to make that important for them. Somehow we've got to figure that out, and it takes elected officials to do so. I've committed to doing it. I've always been committed to helping the least amongst us, and that won't change. Know who the people are, the engineers, but know you've got to go and get these politicians to do their work too. And a lot of that comes from you. Thank you.
Steve, recently the tax assessor's office sent out estimated tax bills based upon increased property value. Some values increased as much as 40 to 50%. During this time of inflation and potential recession, this could create an extreme hardship for the taxpayers of Richmond County. As mayor, how will you resolve this issue?
So first of all, let me first clear out, it was the tax assessor's office who values your property. Those tax assessors, the board of assessors that are appointed by your commission. And they are charged with making sure those values are in line. So in order for them to raise those assessment and those values, there should have been some communication with our governing authority to allow people to know what was going on. See, the law required that the assessor's office do some of the things they did. But you know, government has some ability to protect certain neighborhoods with certain types of zoning. Government has the ability to draw lines around certain areas and freeze their potential taxes if they want to. But guess what? What have I told y'all 2 or 3 times? People don't care about what happens to poor people. So what happens now is people in this neighborhood get a 40% tax increase. Their values increase just like everyone else's. But what's the chance of you selling your home for what the county says you can? We've got to do a better job of making sure that our government agencies talk better to one another. The Board of Assessors should have been able to communicate that to the public in a way so that everyone could have known what was going to happen. I, along like many of you, got my taxes raised, and yet I didn't know, and I work right down the hallway. That can't continue to happen. But you need government leadership who understands how things happen in order to make that work better for you. So I pledge to make sure that we will continue to monitor what happens in those offices, to understand and make sure that those things aren't surprises to you once again. And by the way, as a note, if you haven't appealed yours, make sure you appeal. You've got a few more days to appeal because you can go in and appeal and possibly get yours changed back. Thank you.
Do I need to repeat the question or you got it? Go ahead.
It's a tough time in this country. It's a tough time in this city. As I mentioned, inflation's at an all-time high. I don't know about y'all, but I drive a diesel. Diesel is $5.50 a gallon. We need some help to the taxpayer. Why is it that we have a neighboring county that can roll back a millage rate? Why is it that we have the state of Georgia that can pass on a tax increase, and all we get in Augusta is give me more? Give me more. Give me more. We need someone to stand on your side who owns a home or a business or anything. You think about the senior that's sitting home with a fixed income, and when she got that notice, and I received 2 dozen calls about how they are concerned about how they're going to make their monthly commitments. We need elected, and I'm going to call them, I'm not going to say politicians, we need some public servants that's going to stand on your side to find a way to have some accountability to these tax dollars. And I will agree with my opponent in one thing, there should have been some pre-communication in that. We realize that people saying the houses are increased. However, taking a preemptive strike to let people know that, at least it would have lessened the slope. So here's where I am. Let's find a way to decrease the taxes for the ones that need it here in Augusta, Richmond County. Let's find a way to increase the accountability as to how these dollars are flowing into our coffers. Thank you so much. Come on.
Next question goes to Steve. Augusta is, and for some time now, been a great place to retire. Unfortunately, it lacks opportunity for many young people. We see all the time how our young people graduate from college and never come back to Augusta. One of the concern is, what is your plan to attract and retain young adults after they finish college to stay here in Augusta?
So first thing, the engagement with those young adults starts before they leave here. Right now, I am already involved. I have several youth programs in which I mentor and work with folks through Youth Leadership Augusta and Project Impact each and every month. And I hear them, and I talk to them, and I hear their concerns about there's nothing to do in Augusta. That starts with us as adults creating the type of environment that makes kids and adults want to stay here. I see a little light at the end of the tunnel. I hear a few things that are going on. I don't hear them going on all over town, but you hear a few things that are going on with a Top Golf and a Dave and Buster's and things like that. But government has an opportunity to do even more. We put some money away in our SPLOS so that we could potentially have a water park. Y'all heard about that. You voted for it. And the SPLOS passed 2 years ago and you hadn't heard anything about it. It takes leadership to go and figure out that we've got to put the types of things that make it to where young adults would want to come back here and live in a vibrant city. We've got to put the types of things that entertain young people in their 20s and 30s. We can't close up Augusta at 10 o'clock, but it's got to be safe. You can't just go downtown and have things and not provide the safety and security that's there as well. So helping our sheriff's department and with its retention and recruitment of officers so that they can have the safety and security. Because guess what? Our folks like to go downtown. I was at the Commons this last weekend for a candlelight jazz. I saw so many people there. They love it. And we can do more things like that. But guess what? We've got to have more leaders who think out of the box and create things like that. Why isn't there candlelight jazz at Diamond Lakes too? We could do something down there. Why does everybody got to go all the way downtown? Why can't we do things like put the water park we're talking about down on the south side of town where most people live in Augusta? Those things aren't happening right now. Those thoughts aren't happening right now because Augusta's just holding on. Augusta is a very mediocre city right now. It's going to take somebody who understands government and has a vision to get this done. It's not all about all the loud talk and what we say here. I can promise you that. It's a lot more easier when you're in the room at the table and you got to look at the budget and figure it out. I can promise you that. And you got to work with 6 or 7 more people. Our government doesn't work by you going in the room and grinning and saying, hey, everybody, happy day. Doesn't work like that. But what it's going to take is you going in, understanding what we have already, what those priorities should be, and giving the citizens what they want, what they've already asked for, what they've already voted for. I say just give them what they've asked for right now, and we'll be fine. Thank you.
You need to repeat it or you got it?
I think I got it. So the question was, what does it take to retain and attract young people back to Augusta? First, let me tell you, I love the city. Born and raised here. I run a business, raised a family, and I love it here. But we need to create more economic opportunities for these young people to see that there's a path to affluence. And what do you mean by that? So I was born young, black, and poor, so I know what it's like to struggle. As a business owner, I know what it's like to be the last one to get paid and to have a bunch of bills. So I know what it's like to struggle. So what we have to do is take these young people and show them a different way, to show them that they can become entrepreneurs. And you know what? There's already a budding group of them. And there's groups and groups of them, but they just don't know the way in that they're not legitimized. We need to legitimize and make sure that we help them, to mentor them, to get their businesses on the books, to show them pathways to access capital, to show them how we could create wealth in our community. And I'm gonna be honest with you, there are some of us that operate in these silos to where when we've made it, we don't want to show anyone else the way. But my path is a little bit different. I want to share my vision and share my experiences with anybody that wants to continue to call Augusta home, anybody who wants to grow a small business, anybody who wants to create jobs, because there's number one denominator of people not want to be here, and it's money. We got to find an opportunity to create money and opportunity for them, and I've done that, and I want to share that secret message with everybody. Thank you.
Garnett, question. Augusta has a housing deficit on every level: affordable, workforce, market rate. What is your plan to resolve this issue, and how will you get it accomplished?
Well, I see the housing deficit first rate in having a campaign headquarters out in South Augusta. I see it first rate by having a headquartered office building at the corner of 11th and Telfair, and I see market rate apartments that are coming up, and they're displacing people that traditionally call District 1 home out to District 4, 5, and 6. So we need someone who stands on the side of those who can't afford to live just anywhere. And I'm gonna be honest with you. These housing projects are under attack. Sometimes they're deemed as the highest crime areas, but unfortunately some others, they don't have any place else to go. So as they're displacing these people in their Section 8 vouchers to South Augusta, oftentimes there's not housing for them. So how I plan to attack it is to continue to have the conversations with the federal stakeholders, with the state stakeholders, and how we build affordable housing, not only where they're housing people now out in District 4, 5, and 6, but down in District 1. We shouldn't displace all those citizens to South Augusta. We got to create affordable housing opportunities down in District 1. And you know, while I was canvassing, I had a breath of fresh air in this neighborhood I used to hang out a lot. It used to be called Underwood Homes, down in East Augusta. And I'm pleasantly surprised at how that area has transformed to an affordable housing complex that is safe and secure for its citizens. We need to take that model throughout the city, so you can have an affordable, safe place to live. And I plan to address that by working with our federal stakeholders and also our state stakeholders. Thank you.
The affordable housing problem is a problem all over this country. And yet here in Augusta, we've got affordable housing projects that are going on right now that are supporting just what Augusta needs. The Housing Community Development Department is working on an affordable housing project right now at Sibley Mill to create 55 units right next to Harrisburg, where there's an affordable housing problem. The Augusta Housing Authority is working with the City of Augusta on a choice neighborhood grant that I lead, in which we're going to move the people in Allen Homes into what we call affordable housing for them. Those people right now are living in a space that, although they can afford it, it is not the kind of place any of us would want to live. And yet government right now is working on projects to make sure the least amongst us again is able to live in those types of spaces. District 1 is where we used to warehouse all the affordable housing. I don't know if I necessarily agree with putting all the affordable housing back in District 1. Government changed that model. We don't put everybody who's poor all in one place anymore. We make it to where it's mixed use, mixed income, so that everybody can live together. Government changed the philosophy of how we do that, so that those at least amongst us can live with those in market rate. And so we create projects that when you walk into the building, you don't know who in that building is affordable and who's not. That's the kind of neighborhoods we need to create. Those are the kind of neighborhoods our kids need to grow up in. My kids need to go to school with other kids who may not have the same opportunity, but we can all live the same way. Those things are happening right now in Augusta. Being inside at the table, understanding and helping those projects is what we're doing. But we need to do more, and we can't stop where we are. And there's lots of people that are soldiers that are out there that are looking to help. I just want to help lead the charge. I need for you to continue to think about how we get that done. Thank you.
Final question. Government can do a lot and has done a lot, but it can't do everything. My question is, how are you planning to include nonprofit organizations as being a part of your administration?
Me? Who starts? Me? Yeah. You have to have the nonprofit sector help fix our problems. So in 2007, I started my first nonprofit called the E3 Foundation. That's still going on after 20 years. Well, that's not 20 years, actually that's 15. I'm sorry, I can add y'all. The E3 Foundation started and it created a program called Pathways in the Alternative School to help kids who were having problems. Nonprofits are a sector that assists government, and our government does a pretty good job in working with the Boys and Girls Club, working with the Community Foundation, working with the Salvation Army. All of those types of organizations are filling the gap. But government has to be able to help those organizations as they set a vision for what our community needs. I've served on the board of the Salvation Army, Goodwill, the Boys and Girls Club, all of those organizations. My life has been about working with nonprofits and government. None of that is new for me. Nobody understands better how to link those two and make sure those two work together. If you look downtown on 15th Street, there was a new building that was built called the Hub for Community Innovation. That hub and a Boys and Girls Club sit right next to each other, right on the border of Harrisburg. That is a combination of organizations, including the city of Augusta, who's working with that. The Choice Neighborhoods Project I told you about a minute ago, that's going to move people from the Allen Homes neighborhood into homes that they can live in that same neighborhood, is a combination of the city of Augusta, the Housing Authority, the MCG Foundation, the Community Foundation. All of those organizations are working together right now. You can't do this with government alone. Those nonprofits and those philanthropic dollars are important to it. I'm a leader in that era, in that arena right now. I sit on several boards in which I work with them and working with government. Let's not miss the opportunity to continue that link, to continue to have those organizations fill the gap. Government can't work alone, as the question mentioned, and I'm going to make sure those nonprofits are given the vision to continue to help us and making sure Augusta can continue to be the city that it needs to be over the next 40 years. Thank you for that last question.
Well, my opponent and I agree on one thing. Government can't do everything. As part of my administration, not only is the nonprofit sector important as we address and tackle homelessness, mental health, substance abuse, they all need to be a part of this. We can't depend on the government to do it all. I'm gonna take it a step further. We need the faith-based community to also be a part of that. This great church in which we're having this debate at. We need to help strengthen our school system. We can't do it up with the government. We can't do it with the school board. We're gonna need the faith-based community. We're gonna need some nonprofits. And lastly, we're gonna need some private sector help. So this is a collaboration of our entire community. We need the private sector to step up in a big way to make investments back in our city. As a businessman, I've garnered support from the business community to work with me to invest back in this city. Because before anybody else can have confidence in investing in Augusta, we got to believe it in ourselves. And that's what I've done. So we're going to create what I call this private, I'm going to go a step further, this local private partnership where I've got commitments for millions of dollars to invest in blight, to invest in creating jobs, to invest in creating opportunities for our young people. So the nonprofit sector is important. You got to couple that with the faith-based organizations, and then you need the private sector help. And along with a small push from government, I think that makes a great recipe for success in Augusta. And I thank you.
Since you put it out there, and I'm one of the leading pastors in this area, 3 minutes each. Many years ago, the black pastor played a major role in the redeveloping the community in which his church sits in. how will you involve the faith-based community to help you redevelop blighted neighborhoods?
That's a great question, Pastor. I've had a history of working with local churches and faith-based organizations to meet the needs of the communities they're in. Last summer, I worked with a group of pastors on a project to help the city disperse the American Rescue Funds money. See, I felt that when the city got Rescue Funds money, in order to help people like you, they had to decide how to distribute those services. That's what the money was given for. And most of the times we go to all the same organizations that we use in order to deliver those services. The Salvation Army, Goodwill, Kroc Center, all of those organizations, they do a great job. But I approached the city administrator and I approached a group of pastors and said, why can't we deliver services through these churches who are on the ground every day talking to the least amongst us and the problems they have? Why can't we use the churches to help them with rental assistance? Why can't we use the churches to help them with daycare assistance? Why can't we use the churches with medication reimbursement? The people who are walking up to the door every day and asking, can I get some help? Those are the way we get to all of our communities, because guess what? There's not a Salvation Army on every corner. But if you live in Augusta, there's a church on every corner. And through those churches, through those faith-based organizations, we can use those government dollars to help those least amongst us. So the churches don't have to decide whether or not to put a roof on the church or help the person who's coming at the door that says, Pastor, I don't have anywhere to go. So I'm committed to continue what I've already done. I started an organization with those churches so that they can collect dollars from government and government grants to distribute those services. Faith-based community is the key, and also the key to helping us with our school system. But you didn't ask that question, but we'll get to that next time. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question. I will lean on the faith-based community to do so many things, but one thing I'm gonna warn that we need to do better about is not being so cliquish when it comes to these churches. I think we got to get the communications open back up again to where we realize that in order to move Augusta forward in a holistic way, we at least got to be able to sit down and talk independent of where we stand on things. I'm gonna use a model that I've admired and I've visited a couple of times, and they've been, very warm and embracing of me. I'm not a member there, but the United House of Prayer for All People. If you go down along Wrightsboro Road, there's this beautiful corridor. Somehow they've created some beautiful properties. Not only that, they have an apartment complex where they provide affordable housing to many people in our community. There's another example where Beulah Grove also has some senior housing for people throughout this community. Good Hope Baptist downtown has created some senior housing. But what we got to do is find out what they've done and multiply that through the other churches. How have they been able to accomplish this? How can we have a conversation and put aside our differences as churches, as pastors, as denominations, how we serve and where we serve to move this city forward? Now, my background is that I'm a consensus builder. That's who I've always been. I told you I don't see black, I don't see white, I don't see Democrat, I don't see Republican. I'm an Augustan first, and that's the most important title to me. I'm an Augustan first. I want to see this entire city thrive. No matter where you live, no matter where you serve, no matter how you serve, we need to be one Augusta, we need to be one community, and we need to be on board with one message. And that's who I am. Thank you.
We want to thank both candidates for a job well done. Give both of them a hand.
You gotta give us a second to wrap it. 1 minute. I got one comment.
He got one comment.
First, I want to thank everybody.
Since I'm the moderator, I have the right to decide.
Is that okay?
You all right? Go ahead.
First of all, I want to thank everybody for being out here sitting in this heat. My only comment is that Me and this man right here are friends. Regardless of how we see our visions for this city, we don't have to argue and fuss because we have the same goal that we want to achieve, move Augusta forward. So I thank you guys for being respectful today. Thank you for being in this heat today. And let's keep this going because competition makes our community better. Thank you.
Please, 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 please.
I too like to thank everybody for coming. I see all the fanning and I see that group sitting in the sun. Y'all chose the wrong space. Mr. Johnson is right. I haven't known him very long, but I've certainly known some of the things he's done. And I think this is good and important for our city. I think you see some of the things that are different. I think you see some of the things that are the same. I think you see what it is you may want in a mayor. I think there's an obvious choice, and I think there's a second choice. But I think you have a choice, and that's what matters. So at least if all of you make sure you go out and take care of your business, whatever comes out, Augusta's going to be okay. I thank you, Reverend Thomas. I thank you all for being here. Thank Mr. Johnson as well. And I'm not going to say good night to him. I won't. I know you're the pastor. I'm sorry.
Amen. 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 We want to thank. We're gonna pause for about 5-10 minutes. We have another debate that's coming from Commissioner District 2 candidates. Stacy Pullman and Vaughn Ponce will come and they will have their debate. And let me share something. We all love Augusta. We all love Augusta. I wasn't born in Augusta. I was born in Jacksonville, Florida. One of the things that we in Augusta have to stop doing is fighting each other. Listen, listen. There's a proverb that says, when elephants fight, nothing get injured but the grass. So if our leaders continue to go back and forth, those of us represent the grass. We have to hold each other up and move Augusta forward. Take a break, and we'll be back in 5-10 minutes. Thanks for coming. Take a break. around. Can I have your attention, please? Can I have your attention, please? Let's give these two candidates the same attention that we gave the last two. Can we have your attention, please, please? Can we have your attention, please, please, please? That's the reason why we came out here. Today, our questions will be centered around your plan as commissioner for District 2 and how you will accomplish the services and improvement you recommend for our city. Questions will go back and forth. We will start with Ms. Pouncey, since PO comes before PU in the alphabet. Tell us what you know about District 2.
I know, by the way, I want to first start out by saying thank you all so much for staying to hear about this runoff that we have going on for District 2. I thank you for your time and I thank you for your attention. What I know about District 2 is that it is a very diverse district. I realize, louder. My apologies, let me talk a little bit louder, let me project a little bit more. What I know about District 2 is it is a very diverse district. And let me explain to you what I mean by that, because I have lived in several parts of District 2. I have lived on Sibley Road, I have lived in Valley Park, and I'm currently on Riceboro Road. We have different needs depending upon where we live. Some of District 2 has a higher poverty rate than other areas, and the issues there are more about access to resources and making sure that we invest in our people. But then on another side of our district, we have people that have been able to buy homes, invest in property, they have capital, and their concerns are a little bit different. They're worried more about blight and the issues that costs for them as taxpayers. So what I realize as someone that's running to be the commissioner of District 2 is that you have to be a very diverse person that understands the pockets that exist. But I can take it a step further. I don't just understand the pockets that exist. I have lived within those pockets that exist. So I understand what it's like to be someone that may be in somebody's Section 8 housing, and you're trying your best to progress your life, but you feel like the more you move forward, you take 5 steps back. I understand what some of those obstacles are. At that point, it's not about property management. It's about your ability to progress yourself and have your kids have access to an education that is going to make them competitive. But then as a homeowner, as someone that understands what it's like to have property values decline because of market shares and because of people that are selling their property beneath market share, I also understand what some of those issues are as well. So what I know about the district is that it's diverse. But I also know that a person that doesn't just sympathize, but that can empathize with the issues of the district will be the person to best serve it.
Thank you. What do you know about District 2? You can take it.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for staying and thank you for having me on tonight. I really do appreciate being here. My understanding of District 2 is exactly what my constituents, my people in District 2 have told me and what I see for myself. I've lived in District 2 for going on since 2018. My church is in District 2, and I've been a member of my church since I was 18 years old. I recently celebrated my 44th birthday. So you do the math, that's quite some time. But when I decided to run for office, my main concern was, what do my people want? What do they need? So it's not just what I saw, but what they told me. And so as I went out into the district and I saw the blight that is so very obvious, it was Miss Bell that pointed out to me, Stacy, what are you going to do about this house across the street on 7th Street? It was Miss Ann who talked about the overgrown lots in the area. What's being done about that? Then, as I went to Ross Memorial Church on 10th Street, as they took me outside and they showed me a hole in their street and asked me, what are you going to do about this when you become commissioner? Well, I want to go ahead on and put the win. That hole has actually been fixed because I talked about it in 2 of my forums. So already doing things. Then as I talked to Miss Ingrid Tutt, and she told me that transportation was an issue. She wanted to be able to get back and forth to work. How does she do that? And even though I only named a few people, District 2 is very diverse. So District 2 goes from Wrightsboro Road all the way down to Turpin, to Bethlehem, to Richmond Hill Road. There's a myriad of problems all throughout our district. When I decided to choose the home that I lived in, I fell in love with District 2. I knew where I wanted to be. My husband can attest to the fact that we rode up and down until I found the perfect house for myself. But this is not about me. This is about making sure that I am the voice for people, that I can speak up for the small business owners. As I've developed relationships with housing and community development, and I know that affordable housing is not only there, but more is coming. So the problems that plague our area, I not have only lived some of those problems, being a single mother, being a person that had all of her utilities turned off at one point, because when you're young, things happen. I've not only lived it, but now I can actually say, here, I am the connector. I'm going to connect you to the resources that you need to get these problems fixed.
Thank you. Question 2 to Ms. Poole. There are several historic urban areas in District 2 that are facing disrepair and blight. What and how will you make improvements to these areas? Who will you involve to get this accomplished?
Yes. And again, it goes back to relationships. And I mentioned housing and community development first. Housing and community development doing a great job. Our Land Bank Authority doing an amazing job. When you look at the Turpin Hill area and you look at the history and you talk to the people in that area, it's like you relive it. So how do we bring it back to life? What can be done? Well, making sure that we not only understand the blight ordinance that was passed in 2021, but being able to also speak to it to take it a step further. Not only just implying a tax onto the people that are leaving these areas looking just terrible, but what else can be done? Getting in office and working with our current commission to see what plans can be put in place to make sure that blighted areas are cleaned up. Making sure that infrastructure improvements, so the flooding that exists on Olive Road, can be continuously looked at and fixed. Making sure that we are not last on the list. Making sure that we have someone in office that is going to help preserve Bethlehem, parts of Turpin Hill, parts of Highland Park, all the areas that exist, King Woods. Making sure that you have someone there that's going to be a voice and is going to speak up. That is what I'm going to do.
Thank you. Ms. Pouncey.
You know, for me in my campaign, the only thing I think that is more important than the particular areas of District 2 are all the people within District 2. And let me tell you what I mean by that. It's not so much about where you live. It's more about what you have access to, how much development has been given to you, and how much hope you have in the reality that things are going to change. One of the reasons that I'm running for office is because I am beyond tired of waiting for things to change. I'm beyond tired of election after election of people having talking points about what they are going to do, but they're not talking about what they already have done. I am someone that has overcome many of the issues we're talking about. Blight is a symptom. It's a symptom of the inability to stay in a home and maintain it and keep up the repairs. It's a symptom of not being able to make your payments and the bank foreclosing. Rather than keep addressing the symptom, and by the way, we do have a great ordinance in place that we need to make sure we are consistently being upheld. But rather than just work on the system year after year, let's work on the problem. The problem is that we as a people need a reinvestment and a rebuilding in ourselves. Here is where the church comes in. Here is where a better education system comes into place. Here is where the community fellowship and the partnership and the networking comes into place. And how do I know that? Because I've been that person that has felt a loss of hope because of where I've lived. I've been that person that has felt like the access of education for my children, because I was on Section 8 or because I was living in a project, was not going to be competitive enough to allow them to be a future leader. So for me, we're right. We have an ordinance and we need to work on all these things, and every area is diverse. But can we first start with our people? We have gotten away from the fact that it is the village that matters. That needs to be our grounding point. That in our churches. Thank you.
Question 3. By the way, these are the same questions that were offered to the mayoral candidates, but they're more focusing on your district. Augusta is a great place to live, primarily based because of its temperature, weather. Even though there are spots that experience downpours of rain as well as storm, the resulting rainfall often causes floods in areas like the entrance to the Piedmont Hospital or along Green Street, as well as other areas in the city. How will you resolve this issue, and with whom will you work with to get it accomplished? Ms. Pouncey, starting with you.
The first step I will take in resolving this issue and every issue that we have before us is to first get in and see what has already been done, what has been successful, and what we can do to make things better. I don't think we have to reinvent the total wheel, because I do believe that the people that we have had serving on our commission have been working. It could be a lack of follow-up. It could be the inability of us to understand that while the plan worked 5 years ago, it doesn't work now. So my first step, as someone that is going to make sure they're very transparent with you when elected, I'll be able to go in, do the research, and first let you know what was not working, give recommendations of what we should do to make things work, but ultimately, it is up to the people to decide what our next step needs to be. The priorities will be determined by the people in the county, not just those of us that sit on the commission and we decide that we know is what is best. First step, put the people first and make sure they inform me and I inform them.
Ms. Pooley.
Well, currently what I do is I call the commission when I see that there's a hole in the street and something or someone rather could get injured. And when I get in office, I will be the commission. So being able to ride through the neighborhoods as I've been doing during my campaign, I mentioned 10th Street. I left out Roselle Street. I left out Grand Boulevard. I left out Holly Hill Road. I left out Kissing Bower. I left out, well, I did speak of Olive Road. So just riding through your area and looking at the streets as you talk about flooding, and then having those conversations with Dr. Malik, as I've already done, and asking him his opinion on the different areas and the infrastructure problems. That is how you get things done. You look, you see what the problem is, and you address it, and you make sure you speak up for the constituents in your district. And that is what I will do. That is what I am doing.
As we stated earlier, that Augusta is a great place to retire. Unfortunately, we stated that it lacks opportunities, whereas young people are involved. When they finish college, they move to places like Atlanta or Columbia. What is your plan to keep young people in your district after finishing college to stay here in Augusta? Ms. Puglia.
For me, it's being a person of influence and pointing them in the direction of the programs that are already in place. My children were involved in such programs. Stephen Kendrick was before you, our mayoral candidate, and I can speak to the E3 Foundation because my children have been a part of that foundation. My boys were, and so was my daughter. And the wealth of knowledge they gained, the college tours they take the children on, but not only that, they really dig in deep into our city government here in Augusta. For me, getting children involved, but not only getting them involved, letting them know that there are options. And guess what? They are one of those options. We all are influencers. Everyone sitting out there, you have a level of influence. It's using our influence to draw our youth in. We have to be excited about our city. Those of you that follow me know that I am always calling out local businesses because I've been a small business owner since I was in my 20s. That's important to me. Making sure that small businesses are put out there, but not only to highlight those small businesses, to let our youth know that this could be your business. When we all collectively get involved as a community, as a government, and we show our youth that, hey, this is your city. You can make it whatever you want to be. They won't have a need to go anywhere.
Thank you. Ms. Pouncey.
Well, I'm just a firm believer that before you can be proud of your city, you have to be proud of yourself. And let me just say, I'm 51 years old. I have been an educator for 20 years. I have helped people find jobs for over 25. I have a PhD in business and technology. I've been a single parent, but I'm one of those people that although I have a PhD now, I never went on a college tour. See, that was not a product of my environment. So I am someone that understands what it could be like to get a little bit off track when you're graduating from high school and life decisions are forcing you down a different path. And you have to somehow find your way back through the influence of your village. At 51 years old, I realize it's not about where you live because you take you with you everywhere you go. And that is exactly why my platform, although it may sound different, but hey, that's my entire point. We need change. And so I am looking for us to get back in the reinvestment of us as a people. And so to engage our graduating seniors or our graduating college people, and by the way, I used to be a dean, is to make sure they have pride in who they are. They have belief in their ability to be successful. See, some of them think that they have to go away to achieve success. But once we instill in them the confidence and the hope and the self-esteem of understanding that it's not about where they live, it's about who they are, we will be able to entice them and engage them to stay here and reinvest and give back to the community that has already invested in them. But we have to first do it.
Thank you. Question to you, Ms. Pouncey. How will you involve the other commissioners to accept your vision for District 2?
First, I have to communicate with them, right? I have to make sure that the vision I'm communicating isn't my vision, it's the vision of the people that elect me. So first, I have to make sure that I'm accessible and I'm out there in the community and that I am speaking your desires, not just mine. And then I have to come together and we have to collaborate. We have to network and I have to be transparent, not just with you all, but with them as well. Here are the things that are important to the constituents in my district. These are the things that we feel like we can no longer wait on. And then I will listen to them as they talk about their districts. and we all talk about Augusta Richmond County, and we will find a way to come together and say, okay, we can do this right now, but maybe we have to do this later, because we do have to work together as a county. But as long as I understand what the things are that my constituents think are the priorities, then those are the things that I have to fight for and make sure I advance. There are things that we have that are needs, like we need an improved quality of life. We need a better educational system. And I say that to you as someone that has worked within it for the last 20 years. We need a better uplifting of our hope. So I understand those are the things that we need, but then there's some things that we want. And those are the things we may have to delay while we work together as a body to move this entire county forward.
Thank you. Ms. Pulliam, same question.
Getting the commissioners to go along with you or to vote on your behalf, for me, it's what I've always said. It's leadership. So it's not only knowing what your constituents want, it's meeting with them, and then also looking at studies, going to the professionals, the experts in those fields, because I'm not an expert in every field, but I know how to look over the data that the experts do give. And then once you get that data, being able to present it to the commission and saying, here are the facts. My people need this. We needed it yesterday. We needed it last year. We need to get this done. And so it's being able to bend on the things that you may need to bend on, but it is also being able to speak up and speak very loudly and present facts. And that's what I plan on doing. I plan on doing what I'm already doing, like getting 10th Street, the hole in the street, fixed.
Thank you. We all know, Ms. Pulliam, we all know that the mayor and the commissioner work together. As a commissioner, how do you view the role as the mayor, as the leader of the city?
Do you mean how it currently is, or
How do you view?
how do I view?
Yes.
So I know that there are talks of changing the role of the mayor. In all honesty, that is something that once I get into the seat, sitting at the table and listening to what that looks like at that point, I can make that decision. Currently, the way the commission is working, I do not have a problem with it. Does that mean I'm not open for change? No, it does not. But I have to get in that role to give you an honest answer.
Thank you.
Because I want to stand by my answer.
Thank you. Ms. Pouncey.
Oh, I can totally respect exactly what Ms. Pulliam said. You know, we're on the outside right now looking in. We are making observations. And I will say this, I believe in hierarchy. I do believe that our mayor needs to be someone that does have the ability to have influence. I do believe that our mayor has to be someone that we as commissioners can work with, that we can reason with, and that, yes, we can collaborate with. So in order for that to happen, we have to all come to the table. So I think we do need more inclusion, but please don't mistake inclusion as a code word for power. We are talking about the running of this county. And all of us that are elected, not just the commission, not just the mayor, but all of us within this community, we have to find a way to come together, network, and partner, because, see, the sheriff is important. Our judges are important. Our school board is important. So us having these little silos and these departments that we say, well, that's your area and that's your area, that is definitely something that we need to change. If the city is a whole, then we need to work together as a whole. And we need someone that has experience in all of those areas. I know how to get along with the board members because I have worked within the board, up under the board. I've been an educator. I've started a nonprofit. I have been someone that has emancipated out of the foster care system, so I understand that deficit that we have where we have children that are not having their needs addressed. We have more kids than we have parents. So I'm someone that can work across all of the areas that we have in our government, but also within our district.
Augusta has a housing deficit in every level, affordable, workplace, market rate. What is your plan to resolve this issue in your district, and how will you do that? Ms. Pouncey.
Again, I'm gonna call that a symptom. Okay, I'm going to call the lack of affordable housing a symptom. The issue is neglect. The issue is the inability of leaders to speak up and stand firm and suffer whatever the consequence may be for their people. I'm going to go back. I'm always going to go back to the fact that it's about the people. See, I'm the person that used to get on the city bus to ride it downtown, and that used to hang out at May Park, and then used to take the bus to the Regency Mall. It's not because I wanted to. It's because it was the only mode of transportation that I had. What do I want for our people? For you not to have to depend on the transit system. So maybe we reinvest in a community hub whereby we train people how to save, how to budget, how to have a good credit rating, how to be able to afford housing and maintain housing. But that's not where we are right now. So right now, what I would suggest, or what I will ask my people about as I go out in the community, what do they consider to be the priorities? Gentrification is not the answer. Picking people up because you do not want to reinvest and then moving them to another side of the district or the county, that is not the answer. Someone having to walk outside their door every day and see blight is not the answer either. So I need to get in front of my people and make sure that I'm representing what they want. But my long-term goal would be for us to get back and investing in ourselves, in our community, in partnering and helping each other grow.
Thank you. Ms. Pruitt, same question. Do I need to repeat it, or you?
I have it. Thank you so much. Affordable housing is a crisis across the nation. You turn on your news channel on any given day, and they're talking about not being able to have enough housing. Part of it is wage gaps. Part of it is where wages are not equal up to what they should be. So even when you're budgeting, you don't have enough money to pay for a house, plus keep food on your table. So this is a crisis that the United States is facing. As far as addressing it, our city is doing an amazing job. Of course, there's still work to be done. But let me start with housing and community development. And let me start with what they are doing from Laney Walker, Bethlehem, moving on up Sherman Street, Turpin Hill, and other areas in our city. Let's talk about how they're bringing in developers that want to see change in our communities and want to be able to provide housing. Let's talk about the $25,000 grant that is given out to those individuals that need it. And it's not income-based. So that's $25,000 for housing. Let's talk about what the Land Bank Authority is trying to get accomplished. Let's talk about how they're wanting to take blighted structures and make sure that those are then livable homes. We are addressing this. Tune into our commission meetings, but also know that Augusta is not by themselves in this problem. This is literally a nationwide problem. So let's start with raising wages where we can. And let's start with making sure that people know that housing is available and we are trying to make way to provide more housing. Let's let people know that we are working very, very hard to fix this issue, and it's very evident.
Same question. How will you involve faith-based groups in your district? Because we all know that government can't do everything. Starting with you.
Yes, sir. So I am a pastor's daughter. I live, breathe, eat church. Those are my beliefs because that's how I was raised. And I don't put my beliefs off on others. But with that being said, we were the first people to get to church and beyond the last people to leave. So as we get faith-based organizations involved, as we make sure that these organizations have the resources that they need to give to their members. And when I say resources, I mean connecting them to the right people that can provide the right things. The church it's a pillar in our communities. They literally are on every single corner. And when people are at their last sometimes, unfortunately, that's when they think to go to the church. But where are they going to go? They're going to call the pastor. And the pastor's going to get calls at 3 a.m. in the morning, Reverend Thomas.
Some of them do.
Some of them do. Not all of them. But whoever that pastor has ordained in that church, somebody's getting a call early in the morning. So getting the resources to our churches, making sure that they are armed and ready to be able to go out and give out information like that $25,000 grant, making sure they're able to speak to the small business grant that's out there to help small businesses, making sure that our churches have that information and they can pass that along to the people. That's how we're going to get our church involved, and that's how we're going to keep our church involved.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. If I'm recalling the question correctly, it is how will I involve the faith-based community in my plans as a commissioner? I'm sure I'm not the only person right now that has experienced a loss of faith in their life. You know, your environment, the situation you're going through. And I'm someone that was baptized at Tabernacle Baptist Church when I grew up and out in homes. But there are things that happen in life that sometimes cause you to question your faith. And then you get back to where you need to be. You get back into your deliverance, but you never forget those moments of when you questioned your ability to survive or to make it, or whether or not you had value in life. Being someone that can speak to both sides of that, because thank God when I was 21 years old, I was delivered into an understanding of just how much God is guiding me in my life. But as someone that grew up in home after home and project after project, I didn't always see that clearly. How do I plan to continue to involve the faith-based community? Well, for one, I'll keep testifying. But for two, I'll be able to reach out to those people that are resistant and that are pushing away and that are saying, can't no one help me? God doesn't love me. I can speak to that point. I can speak to that lack of belief in the fact that there is a higher being that moves mountains in all of our lives. So I will testify, I will remind, I will be able to empathize, and then I will continue, as I do now, with my nonprofit that I run for foster children. I'll continue to reach out to the church. I'll continue to ask them to share their ability to give homeless people a place to stay, their ability to allow me to speak in front of people to try and improve their plight in life. I will continue to do what I've always done, which is testify to the mountains that God has moved in my life, but to also reach out to the faith-based community because I am only here because of them. Thank you.
Thank you. As we get ready to conclude, we have exhausted all of the questions that the committee has presented. We have covered a wide range of areas, and we want to give you an opportunity to close with something that may be inside that we didn't cover. So as we get ready to conclude this debate, Ms. Pounce, you can share with us whatever's inside of you that we didn't cover through these questions that relates to your district.
Can I tell a little bit about myself? Okay, perfect.
Sure.
Because I'm not sure me or Ms. Podium had an opportunity to do that. I want to make sure that you all understand what is driving me to run for office. I've been driven to run for office because I want to see the change happening. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to have other people talk about it. And, you know, that's what a leader does, right? A leader is someone that finally stands up and says, enough is enough. As someone that has lived in various areas of the CSRA, I believe in economic development. I do. I want us to find a way to decrease blight. I want us to improve the transit system for those of us that have to rely upon it. And yes, the food desert, food swamp, food insecurity, all of those are very important economic development factors that we need to work on. As someone that has a nonprofit that is in 4 counties, I want to see it grow even more. So I believe in business development. I want to not just grow my nonprofit, but I want to see everyone in District 2 because we have so much business and industry in District 2. I want to see that grow as well. But I will not give up on the people development piece that I'm speaking to. We must reinvest. We must rebuild our community and ourselves. And I say this to you as someone that has needed that in their life, but as someone that is also witnessing our seniors graduating with those same deficits. Someone that has taught young adults trying to get their GED or looking for a way to retool themselves that need that same rebuilding and retooling. I am about us putting our people first, your voice, but also your life, your quality, your access to opportunity, your faith, and your belief in the fact that you can do anything. And I've done research and I know many people, but I say that to you as living proof. You can do it, and we need someone that understands exactly what it is that we need to do to keep that faith, determination, and passion and make it happen. And you don't find that in a program necessarily. You don't find that in an ordinance necessary. That is belief in yourself and the ability to have someone standing right in front of you that can testify to the fact that they have done it themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Pulliam.
I stand before you this evening to let you know the change actually begins with everyone in this audience. Everyone that is going to be watching this recording. For those of you that don't know, a little over 3,000 people voted in our district. There's over 15,000 registered voters. So that's around 11,000 people, a little over 11,000 that did not cast their votes. The change begins with going to the polls. You have a choice. You have to make that choice. You have been given power. You have to use that power. We cannot continue to talk about what's not being done, what hasn't been done, what needs to be done, if we are not going to use our voice. In order to get me in office, I need you to use your voice. I got 45.6% of the vote on May 24th. I need 100% of the vote on June the 13th. We need 100% of our people in District 2 to come out and use their voice. You have influence. I recently, this past Saturday, went to the Laney Josie picnic. And when I arrived, someone said, "Oh my gosh, we voted for you. We voted for you." But as I went out into the crowd, people started saying, "I don't live here." I said, "But you know somebody that does." Influence. We follow people that don't live in Augusta. Do we not? Some of us are on social media, some of us aren't. But some of us have our favorite TV shows that we watch. Those people don't live in Augusta. But they're influencers because they have you tuning into them. I need you to use your influence to get people out to the polls. We want to show out in record numbers because I know that District 2 can do it. I believe in District 2. The change starts with everyone in this audience. Use your voice and use your power. And I promise when I get on that commission seat, I will use my voice on your behalf.
Amen. We thank both of the candidates for being honest, being open, being vulnerable. And we wish both of you much success. We know that you will serve your district and your constituents well. And we hope and pray that once you are elected, that you won't forget those who got you there. Let's give both of them a hand, please. We want to thank all of you for participating in this debate. We hope that you have gained a little more insight on each mayoral candidate as well as Commissioner District 2 candidates. Let us continue to vote, use our voice, and pray that things will go in the right direction. We want to thank the Sand Hill Neighborhood Association for putting this forum on. Let's give them a hand. And thank you all for coming. Let us be dismissed with a word of prayer. Our God, we thank you for allowing us to come as one body. We thank you for each candidate. We know, oh God, that all decisions rest in your hand, but you use resources to get your work done. So we pray strength for all four candidates. And we know that only two will be elected. But we thank you now, God, for seeing how you have brought all of them all the way from the bottom to the top. Continue to bless them and their families. Bless Augusta. Bless our leaders as we move forward. We ask and pray as each one of us drive home tonight that everybody will make it home safe and sound as they did coming. This is our prayer. We ask in Christ's name. Amen, amen, and amen. And if you don't have a church home, we are open every Sunday at 10 o'clock.
Amen.
Come and see us. We'll be glad to have you. Have a good evening. Thanks, both of you ladies.